Вітаю вас в новому році і поговоримо про чергову порцію брехні пропаганди держави-агресора.
Greetings. Let's talk about another portion of lies of propaganda of the aggressor state. Let's start with the statement of the second person in the political hierarchy of Russia, Medvedev, who names the goals for Russia in the current year the destruction of the Ukrainian political leadership, the annihilation of the legitimate president from power. In his publication in the Telegram channel, Medvedev states, the removal of the ruling Bandera regime is not a declared but the most important and inevitable goal, which must be and will be achieved. Medvedev writes, thus confirming the thesis of the previous briefings that the removal of the president of Ukraine is one of the goals for Russia and will be done, including by destabilizing the situation inside Ukraine. Medvedev also continues to insist that Kyiv will be one of the targets of Russia's further war against Ukraine. Odessa, Dnipropetrovsk, Kharkiv, Mykolaiv, Kyiv are Russian cities, as many other temporarily occupied cities, while they are still labeled yellow and blue on paper maps and electronic tablets. Thus, the aggressor state continues to spread the thesis that the occupation of all of Ukraine is not only a flesh and blood fantasy, but also the goal of the Russian political leadership. Despite the fact that through foreign journalists they spread the thesis that they are ready for negotiations, that they are not at war with Ukraine and so on. This is a lie. Their goal is to seize all of Ukraine. Meanwhile, the aggressor state is trying to present as an achievement of its armed forces strikes against the civilian population of Ukraine, and they find this justification. They say that during these attacks they destroyed the Ukrainian military warehouses with weapons and so on. The result of Russia's war on targets in Ukraine in response to the terrorist attack in Belgorod and the insult of Zelensky to Putin, says Telegram channel and gives such a list. Patriot SAMs, a warehouse with ATACMS missiles, a command post of the armed forces of Ukraine were destroyed in Kyiv and the region. 9 generals were killed, one of them deputy of Zaluzhny. 4 command centers and 2 hotels with mercenaries from Sweden, Denmark, Lithuania, Estonia were destroyed. Complete nonsense. The whole world had seen that as a result of the attack on the capital, it was civilian infrastructure, civilian buildings that were destroyed, and there were certainly no losses of the Ukrainian military in such numbers as the Russian propaganda quotes. It is also a lie, the statement of the Russian Defense Ministry, that the Ukrainian military was also destroyed in the attack on Kharkiv. In fact, civilian objects were also affected. According to the Russian Ministry of Defense, missile strike on the former hotel complex destroyed representatives of the GUR and armed forces of Ukraine. There were also up to 200 foreign mercenaries who were planned to be involved in terrorist raids on the Russian territory bordering Ukraine. Complete lie. There was no military, not a single Ukrainian military was injured. It was the civilian population that suffered as a result of the attack against the Ukrainian hotel in Kharkiv. Russian propaganda continues to spread lies, including using people who until recently still had some reputation. In particular, Vladimir Pozner, one of the Russian TV presenters, who for a long time tried to be a representative of the liberal wing, actually turned out to be another voice of the Russian propaganda. In a telegram, Pozner says that the war that Putin started against Ukraine is a result of the fact that US President Biden did not hear Putin and provoked Russia to war against Ukraine. It is a typical Russian propaganda thesis that Russia did not want to attack but was forced into this war. There is also a shortage of Western speakers on the side of Russian propaganda. They're using one of the discounted French politicians next. He is the leader of the French party, Florian Philippot, who called for the lifting of anti-Russian sanctions. He believes that France should exit the European electricity market and EU in general. Who is this Florian Philippot, who has become a typical speaker of Russian propaganda simply with a foreign name? This is the leader of a miniature anti-European party, which in the 2019 European Parliament election scored a total of 0.6% and has no influence on either French or European politics. Russian media and Telegram channels report that the Ukrainian organization Support LGBTQ Ukraine Fund, with the support of President Zelensky, has launched a fundraiser for sex reassignment surgeries for Ukrainian residents. That's a lie. It simply uses a similar website and fake address by the president. There are no such official and unofficial campaigns by Ukrainian authorities. And the attempts to use this topic in Russian propaganda is typical, given that Russia itself recently banned LGBTQ. The Russian propagandist Solovyov published the news that a journalist from Egypt who was investigating the purchase of a luxury villa by Zelensky's mother-in-law died under mysterious circumstances. A complete lie. First, there was no villa purchase. Second, the investigation they are trying to file is a continuation of IPSO, a Russian propaganda conducted with Defense Minister Reznikov. We mentioned in previous briefings that Russian propaganda used a whole network of TikTok channels with stories that Minister Reznikov bought a villa for his daughter in the suburbs of Madrid and also a sports car with gold rims. Now there is a new series of this outburst saying that the Ukrainian president's family has bought a villa in Egypt next door to Angelina Jolie. A fake which is even difficult to comment on without smiling. But this is the principle of Russian propaganda, to throw as much nonsense as possible into the information space. Of course, some will be filtered out by critical thinking. Some of it may reach an audience that is not sensitive to propaganda information campaigns and may believe some of these fakes. This time we are also forced to recall Ukrainian sources of lies. In particular, one of the Ukrainian political analysts spread a lie about the alleged death of 108 Ukrainian defenders near Avdiivka on Christmas Day because the servicemen had to travel by bus for a holiday because there was no cars. It is a complete lie, and the spread of this lie by Ukrainian political analysts, unfortunately, shows that they are consciously or not, but they are becoming the source of Russian propaganda narratives in Ukrainian media. We can also see one of the former MPs who also in his statements continues to spread the Russian thesis about the large number of deaths among the military and civilians as a result of Russian missile strikes on Ukrainian infrastructure. I urge the Ukrainian audience to filter the statements of former Ukrainian politicians who are now titling themselves as political scientists and not to trust their propaganda, just like the Russian propaganda. Trust Ukrainian official media and Ukrainian official sources of information, Ukrainian military and political leadership. Glory to Ukraine!